In this video, I will go through writing and designing a research article ready for publication. So if you are thinking of publishing your work and have some sort of material that you don't know how to put it together and make it a manuscript ready for publication, then this video series will be very useful for you. In this first video, I will start with how to design your writing strategy, and then we'll progress through the main elements of research articles and papers in general, as per the advice of Belcher's book, Writing Your Journal Article in 12 Weeks, a guide to academic publishing success, which was published in 2019. That is the second edition, and I've included the full reference for you on this slide to have a look. I highly recommend reading the entire book to get a complete grasp of the writing process that you can do if this is what you're after. So first of all, let's talk about designing your writing strategy for your research article. So let's talk about keys to a positive writing experience as a starter to get you really into the mood. On writing, the advice is to get writing and keep writing. This is as simple as if you don't write regularly, you will get better at not writing. So notice the not over here. If you are a busy person, even having as much as 15 minutes of writing may help you write regularly. You might find making plans to write is useful for you too, but that depends on your preference, on your personal preference. Start reading journal articles and read a lot. With reading, you start to pick up patterns and you internalize the language being used in those articles, and also the writing conventions happening in your field. Even starting small with reading can help, like, reading one book page every day before you go to sleep may also help you, because with time, you will start increasing your stamina and time. Like, for example, if you are, trying to do some running for the first time, and then you increase your stamina with time. So you can think of writing in the same way. Also, writing is not and should not necessarily be a private and isolated activity. You may find that working with project teams and co-authors may help inspire you to write. So some tips there is to show up in person, to start a writing group, to choose a writing buddy, taking a writing workshop, meeting a colleague at a library or, say, a restaurant, to write for some time. Whichever way you choose is up to you, but the bottom line is that you get exposed to language, ideas, you feel you moved with writing or achieved something perhaps. It makes you relate your ideas also to other people. Presenting your ideas at conferences may also help, because the sort of questions you get, the conversations you have with people, getting exposed to what's out there, having to debate your answers and ideas, all of these ways will help shape your writing and eventually your article as well, and gives you ideas. Journal editors also tend to speak at conferences, so you can also get a sense or even talk to these people about your article or future article and decide to go with a certain journal versus another. Another tip is to persist with writing and move forward despite rejections. Everyone had a rejection or rejections in their life of their papers. We all have. The paper peer review process by itself is a very subjective process, where a paper you submitted that got rejected may find another home somewhere else and be accepted, straight away. So keep that in mind. Even Nobel Prize winners have had their papers rejected several times, which later won them the Nobel Prize. So don't let criticism by others affect your attitude and your motivation to write, because the journal peer review process could be biased and it could be careless as well, as Belcher put it. The only difference is that published authors are motivated and persist with their work, and they, if you are motivated enough, you will find somebody else to go with. Also, having a genuine interest in your topic and a passion and belief in what you are writing about is in itself a big motivation to write. You can even use your own, background, identity, beliefs, demographics, and social circumstances to help motivate you to write, as these things could also shed new light in relation to your topic and give you maybe, perhaps, a special motivation to continue and write. So to conclude from all the 5 points discussed on this slide, write if you think you can make even the smallest contribution to some part of the world that you see important to you. Next, try to think about the paper you want to revise or work on. In most cases, there won't be a need to start writing a paper from scratch, from the beginning. If you are thinking about writing a paper, try to find any material you wrote about this topic in whichever form you did. For example, check if you have written an essay, a master thesis, a dissertation, chapter, or a talk. The main thing to keep in mind is to try to find the seed that would start the whole process for you without you feeling, and getting overwhelmed with the whole process. Have a look around your saved files and see whether you have written any of the following types of texts that may help you, which I listed on the slide. And these could include book reviews, an interview with someone, perhaps about a topic, a professional or a trade article, a note, a article, a response article, a review article, or a translation. All of these are not suitable as journal articles, but they can offer some help when you start revising your actual journal article, whether it is a social science research article, which could be, experimental. It could be a qualitative, or an interpretive piece of research writing. It could be a humanities research article, a humanities theoretical article, or a natural science research article. All these articles are suitable to publish as a research paper. So keep that in mind. Now that you know about the types of academic articles that you can write, you can answer the following questions and then see whether the same answer appear in more than one area, because that will give you a strong start to a topic, a title, or text for your article. So I'll go to Belcher's book and then to go through these. So first of all, praise. Has a colleague, just think about it, has a colleague or a professor or anybody else ever suggested that you submit a text you wrote for a publication or a prize or anything else, or a grant? If not, has anyone ever suggested that a text you wrote was particularly strong or intriguing? Pleasure. Is there any text you wrote that you enjoyed researching and that you still think back on with gratitude? Think about relevance. Does any text that you wrote address some aspect of a current debate in your discipline, in your recent reading or conversations? Do you find yourself thinking of something that you wrote and its relevance? So that is relevance. Research. Is any text you wrote particularly well researched? Did you do substantial reading, for one, and still have all the resources or data with you? Also, findings. Ask yourself, does any text you wrote have particularly strong or unusual findings? Does any contain an original insight that could carry a whole article? Argument. Does any text that you wrote take a strong stand, trying to persuade your readers to believe something? Think about jobs, promotions. Does any text that you wrote, if you were to publish it, help you make a stronger case for being hired or promoted in your field? For example, if you haven't, published much and you are positioning perhaps yourself as a scholar of early, of something, in particular a topic, does publishing help you in that aspect? And also conference papers. Have you ever given a conference paper? Did you receive a positive response? Did you get useful comments that would help you in revising the paper for publication? And thesis, which is very common. Have you written a thesis or a PhD dissertation? What parts of it are worth revisiting for possible publication? And this is very relevant to those who don't do or take the path of thesis by publication. Also check any rejected articles that you have had. Have you ever submitted an article for publication and received a revise and resubmit notice? If not, have you ever received a rejection notice? Okay, so you could see here, so, hopefully answering some of these questions that I just asked, which Belcher, listed in her book, hopefully that will help you see whether the same answer appear in more than one area, because that will give you a strong start to a topic or the text that you need to start writing your article. So what do you do if you are left with several candidate papers that you could write? If you are unsure which one to choose, consider the following tips. Does your supervisor or professor approve of the paper or have encouraged its publication? Have your article received a revise and resubmit notice from a journal? If yes, continue with this article or this paper. And also, which paper would give you the least amount of work and which one makes you the most excited? So hopefully these 3 tips or answering these 3 questions will help you decide which candidate paper to go with if you have got several papers to write. Now that you have found your material, your candidate paper to work on, it will help you to reread the paper and identify your next revision tasks. And to start this process, I will go back to Belcher's book and to talk about these. So I'm scrolling down to the relevant parts. So bear with me until I get to because I do have the book with me here. Apologies, I must have skipped a bit of material here. Let's go back. There we are. Okay. So rereading, once you decided, as I just mentioned, your paper, you could now identify the revision tasks that will help you. So first of all, and Belcher's advice is, first of all, locate the latest version of your paper on your computer. Okay. So find the latest version that you have of the paper that you were working on or you parked aside. And she mentioned that it's always frustrating to start from scratch, only to realize and to start with a version that is an older one, only to realize that you are not working on the most recent version of that paper. And if you can't find an electronic document for the paper that you are revising for this, as part of this course, only a print copy, set aside time to type it up. That's her advice. Okay. The second advice is save a copy separately. So make sure to save an electronic copy of your article in its current, state, so that you can compare it with the final result. The third suggestion is to print out the paper that you selected. And this whole assignment works best, she says, when using a print copy of your paper, not viewing it on screen. Okay. And if you can't, for any reason, print your paper, perhaps you don't want to waste, paper and so on. Her suggestion is to try to defamiliarize yourself with the content by perhaps maybe putting the content in another color or reading it using a different size. And then you can also, after that, reread the print copy, the printed copy, once without touching it. So reading your article without revising it will give you the best sense of its overall state and ideas. Sometimes it will seem better than you remember. And that would be a really good thing. And other times it will seem dreadful. So be of good, encourage yourself and be courageous, as, good writing is all about rewriting. This is what she says. And then, and also the next step is to reread the printed copy with pen in hand. So in the margins, or on a separate piece of paper, jot down what you currently think you need to do to each paragraph to get it ready for publication. And be kind to yourself. Keep these notes clinical, she says, and not insulting. Some notes might be, that might be useful for you to write down, are listed on that page, which is page 54 of the book. And these include find page reference, fix logical breaks, provide transition sentence, state relevance or delete redundancy, provide maybe citation, maybe find additional source or sources. You could move paragraphs to a different section. You could put more evidence. You could rewrite the introduction, add conclusion, and so on. And then the final part of this process is to make a list of revision tasks. And her book really gives you a step-by-step revision process of your paper. But each case could be different. That's what she says. So identify what you think you need to do to prepare your paper for publication. Okay. And finally, I listed on the slide some other tasks, or other miscellaneous setting up tasks mentioned by Belcher in her book, which could save you time and effort. And some things are really worth, I thought, mentioning. Starting with setting up your writing time. Think about a space or a place and time that will make you get into the habit of writing. This will be, maybe your comfort place and time for writing. Set up citations software. If you are using a software, that is great. If not, the advice is to use one for productivity reasons. Another advantage is that it reduces any chances of citation errors and having to change the referencing system if you, for example, decided to try and move on to another journal. So that would really, having that software could save you a lot of time and hassle. There are so many out there, and I won't, recommend any here because it is a matter of, really personal choice. That's what I found when I was doing my PhD, when I talked to other students. And it's all about trial and error, and preferences, and maybe even your computer and what it could handle. Also set up a file backup system. Think about a proper backup system and use multiple systems or multiple methods to save your paper and your writing process. Address co-authorship. This is important, especially if you are a student or someone new to this. Decide co-author sequence early on. Belcher have some suggestions there to handle this situation. Her suggestions are you can have no co-authorship, that is. You can have fewer authors. You can understand the conventions out there, for example, who goes first or last on a paper and who goes in between. Belcher cited a useful resource available online called How to Handle Authorship Disputes, a guide for new researchers, which may help you. So you might refer to this one if you wanted to, read more about how to solve these co-authorship disputes or prevent them in the first place. Also agree in advance, make it in writing, and don't leave it too late. Learn to ask questions of senior co-authors, which is not, it shouldn't be really an issue in my view if you are a student, if you put it the right way. Next, Belcher also recommended start reading a journal article and dissect it in terms of parts, citations, used, and so on. And finally, try to track your writing time. Look at what you accomplished within a few days or a week of writing, and remember to not feel disappointed. So hopefully in this video, I gave you an idea about how to design your writing strategy if you are trying to publish a journal article with a journal.